So why am I not surprised here? So, the San Jose mayor tells residents to skip Thanksgiving, then celebrates with elderly parents. This celebration with a group of people was a departure from what the mayor's press team had said he would be doing, which was staying home with only his immediate family. Interesting. Sounds like hypocrisy to me, meaning that the elites that he proposes he is can do what he wants. Now, I dare say that it just seems to me, and I'm not really making some sort of theory here, I'm going to have a thought experiment. Meaning that, for some reason, it seems the proposed elite seem to think that they're okay if they visit their family. But you can't because it's unsafe. So what gives? Don't know. San Jose's mayor Sam Liccardo told citizens not to get together for Thanksgiving. Then he gathered with friends and family to celebrate the holiday. On November 25th, he wrote, "Cases are spiking in part because we're letting our guard and masks down with family and friends. Let's cancel the big gatherings this year and focus on keeping each other safe." But then it gets a little funky fresh. Update. Says COVID-19, 3 additional deaths reported, blah, blah, blah. Okay. On November 30th, local news reported that Liccardo celebrated with his elderly parents at their Saratoga home with an unknown number of guests. Liccardo's staff did not say how many others were at the dinner, from how many different households, or if face masking measures were followed while food was not being eaten. I guarantee you there, boys and girls out there in Laszlo land, it wasn't. There was no safeguards, if you will. Instead, Liccardo's chief of staff, Jim Reed, said, "This is a private event, not public. We are going to redraw the line between what is personal and what is public because the line has become blurred." Indeed, their chief of staff, Jim Reed, indeed. Imagine this, if you will, that they tell you not to do something, they get caught doing it, then they say, well, we're just going to redraw the lines and make up new rules and guidelines because we got caught. Interesting. You would think that there is something up here, which I do think there is. Meaning that I think these people know it's... Let's just leave it at that. This celebration with a group of people was a departure from what the mayor's press team had said he would be doing, which was staying home with only his immediate family. When local news inquired as to whether or not the mayor had kept to his plans, a spokesperson for his office said the office had misspoke, and that in fact Liccardo had celebrated the very holiday he'd asked people not to celebrate. His attendance at a Thanksgiving party was directly opposed to Santa Clara County health guidelines as issued by Dr. Sarah Cody, the health officer. Cody instructed residents to keep your holiday gatherings to your immediate family or household members. Jesus. The hypocrisy is overflowing. I cannot emphasize enough. Gathering with friends and family who are not in your household is not safe. But then why did, I don't know, the mayor of San Jose, Liccardo, do that? Seems to me that something may be up. So from the Joplin Globe, Rich Lowry, COVID-19 hypocrisy will prompt backlash. You got to understand here, when these elite and politicians out there just flaunt that you need to obey these guidelines and these other health guidelines, but we're going to do whatever we want, and then we're going to have some sort of, excuse to say that we didn't have to do it because of X, Y, and Z. The backlash is coming. It already seems clear that the first major political and cultural eruption of the Biden years will be roiling populist backlash against the next round of COVID-19 restrictions. And believe me, you boys and girls out in Laszlo land, it's going to happen. We saw this sentiment play out in sporadic anti-lockdown demonstrations last spring and has even driven ongoing resistance to masks but it is in all likelihood about to reach an entirely new level, fueled by exhaustion with the virus, elite hypocrisy, and the shattered credibility of the public health establishment. I'm looking right at you there, Dr. Fauci. The ascension of Joe Biden will add force to the reaction. It is an iron law of American politics that whichever party doesn't control the presidency will suspect the other of plotting to impose a tyranny. So the fear of loathing of COVID-19 restrictions, somewhat muted on the right while Donald Trump was president, will deepen and intensify. Yeah, I agree. Because the other side is always that side of power, always looks with a discerning eye at the other party. The right's populism and limited government impulse, which separated in the Trump years, will presumably be reunited in a push against lockdowns in a way that haven't been seen since the Tea Party. Lockdowns, mass police curfews, what about freedom? Asked conservative Jim Jordan of Ohio in a recent tweet forecasting things to come. It would be much better if we could find a prudent middle path through the next several months. Yeah. As a pandemic enters its worst phase and as new vaccines arrive, that will soon start changing everything. But a significant segment of the American public has lost its patience with a new normal that has at times been arbitrary and poorly thought through. Exactly. Lockdowns after lockdown, and they're not doing anything. Locking down people in their homes isn't going to help speed things up. In my opinion, it's actually going to make things worse. We've already seen that people with suicides, drug and alcohol abuse, spousal abuse for being locked down. These are normal things that come upon something like this. But when we keep locking down and keep ignoring the science, as per the WHO and the CDC stating that lockdowns are not the way to go, when we keep doing that, things pop up. And by the way, this is the reason why these politicians want to do lockdowns, because they don't want anyone to die, which is a noble feat. But it's a fool's errand. It's not going to stop. And so they can say, well, yeah, the deaths are up, but we did everything possible. But it's your fault as the public because you didn't follow our guidelines. Watch. I guarantee you that if we haven't seen it now, we're going to see it in the near future. When the new virus first hit our shores and we knew much less about it, the case for lockdowns was strong to keep the healthcare system from getting overwhelmed and to play for time and better treatments, which in turn has happened. In retrospect, though, the nationwide lockdowns of spring closed down some states before they experienced their initial waves of the disease, imposing economic, mental health, and medical costs without much upside. After that kind of sacrifice, it's hard to double dip and ask people to do it again. Exactly. Especially when the latest advice runs against the grain of one of the nation's oldest traditions, namely Thanksgiving, and when prominent pro-restriction office holders discredit themselves with their own behavior. A week or so ago, Mayor Lightfoot of Chicago told residents of her city, you must cancel normal Thanksgiving plans, particularly if they include guests that do not live in your immediate household. Yet just days earlier, she happily joined a crowd celebrating Joe Biden's election victory, or seemingly election victory. Afterwards, she said that there are times when we actually do need to have relief and come together, but not during Thanksgiving, goddammit. Without explaining why this wide-ranging justification wouldn't apply to the Thanksgiving gatherings she wanted to cancel. During this moment, the political class should have been especially sensitive to playing by its own rules, when those rules have been so relatively easy to bear for the elite and so punishing for ordinary workers and the plebes out there. Still, the likes of Nancy Pelosi and Gavin Newsom have flouted COVID-19 strictures rather than forego a visit to a hair salon or a world-class French restaurant. The appeal of such politicians and the incoming Biden administration, presumed, is always to public health experts, when they, though, too have largely jettisoned any claim to public trust. They have violated the public trust so much in the last 8-9 months. Between Gavin Newsom, between all those officials in New York City said, come to Chinatown, it's cool. When Nancy Pelosi said, come to Chinatown, it's cool, whatever. There you go. To simplify and generalize, at the start of this year, yet They downplayed the virus for fear that it would stoke xenophobia. Then they lurched into a 5-alarm fire mode. They poured cold water on masks before turning around and insisting on them despite ambiguous evidence on the efficacy of cloth masks. There you go. They preached the gospel of social distancing until Black Lives Matter protest erupted, blessing these huge, often unruly gatherings because fighting racism is supposedly a paramount public health issue. The upshot will be poisonous contention in the months ahead before the advent of the most American solution, the clever technological fix in the form of transformative vaccines. And there lies the thing. We've already seen the backlash now. People are saying, screw you. If you're going to go to the French Laundry, Gavin Newsom, and have a dinner, when you said that you have to mask up between bites and you didn't do that, then you come out and say, nah, don't worry about it, but you need to do it. That's bullshit. When you have Nancy Pelosi go to a hair salon when other people can't go, that's bullshit. When you have San Jose's mayor saying that you can't gather at Thanksgiving, and then he goes out and does it, that's bullshit. Do you not see the smell of bullshit going on right now? The political class, the elite, saying that you've got to do it, but they're not doing it, but we're still supposed to follow through with it? I don't know. But I'll tell you this. I'm not going to tell you how to run your life. I'm not going to tell you what to do. But I know what I'm going to do. I'm not going to say anything. But I think if you're a fan of my work and my channel here, you know what I'm going to do continuing on, even if Joe Biden becomes president January 21st, 2021. I guarantee it that I am going to do what I think is correct. Damn be the law. Or public health officials telling me what I can and can't do when they do the opposite.